Welcome to the Stripped Podcast. This is your host, Allison Lassard. Let's get into it. So I want to talk about the thing we tend to forget about when we're in pain or grief or heartbreak or confusion or big life transition, and that is pleasure. So why do we cut ourselves off from pleasure when things get hard? Let's dive in. I've been working with people for over a decade. One-to-one, intuitively around their healing and shadow work and relationship stuff. And I just noticed again and again, because we're conditioned this way. And, people think pleasure is either, number one, something that you have to earn, that you have to be worthy of when the conditions are perfect or when your body is perfect or, you know what I mean? When life looks perfect. Or two, they automatically assume pleasure has to do with a partner, like an intimate partner. Or that sexual energy has to do with a romantic partner, and that this isn't something that you can embody and appreciate and lean into for yourself. So I just kind of want to reframe pleasure here as a form of medicine, as something sacred, as something to lean into when things are challenging, because this is something that has really saved me. I posted about it on Instagram the other day, just saying, because we're in the middle also of the 30-day purification meditation challenge. It's a Buddhist practice to purify negative karma, basically, and sort of plant the seeds in your mind of what you actually want to experience. And the focus for this meditation challenge was addiction or painful habit that you want to dissolve. And I've noticed, because I was in my own practice, I started before the challenge on my own personal purification meditation. So I was maybe a week and a half in when the challenge launched April 15th. And I was noticing a lot of shit coming up, as it does with this type of practice. It stirs all the mud at the bottom of your subconscious. If you imagine a glass and there's a glass of water, let's say, and there's dirt at the bottom, but the water is clear. This meditation is like the spoon that you stick in, and all of a sudden the shit is all up in the water and you can't really see through it, and it looks kind of foggy at first. And it's very common that a lot of changes are going to happen in the 30 days, and it's going to be uncomfortable before it gets more comfortable. And that's also the spiritual path, you guys. Can you just sit in the discomfort? Can you just observe it? It's not that complicated, okay? So anyway, I've noticed over the last, because now I'm 20-something, I think I'm on my 26th day of my own practice. And I really noticed about halfway through how I was not leaning into my pleasure, and I started to feel really moody, irritable, kind of depressed, in my head. My sleep wasn't very good. I know myself enough, and I've been teaching this for many years. I did an immersion back in 2021 called The Return of Venus for 5 weeks, and it was for women to really lean into this feminine embodiment, slowing down, sensuality, again, pleasure, sexual energy is something sacred, their own meditative and embodiment practices. So I'm very familiar with how healing it is when we do this. And I notice that when I feel dried up, you know what I mean? Just energetically, you feel like a flower that's withering and you're like, I'm not feeling alive. The tendency there when you're sad is to usually get more sad, right? Or to criticize yourself, judge yourself, punish yourself more. So I just want this episode to be a gentle reminder that pleasure is a lifeline that we should come back to. And also, I think a lot of people have guilt or fear or shame, particularly when they're suffering or they notice other people in the world are suffering. They think joy or beauty or pleasure is inappropriate, it's frivolous, right? Okay. I want to shut that down too, because grief or pain, life is suffering. So we're already in a suffering realm, first law of Buddhism, first noble truth, life is suffering. So we already know we came into a suffering realm. What are you going to make of it? The Buddhists are great because they focus on joy. Rejoicing is actually a practice. It's called Tartuk. And there is a practice literally to create more bliss and joy in your mind and your body. So pleasure isn't going to necessarily erase all your pain, but it's definitely going to help you not go numb. And I do notice, like I said, that the people that tend to come to me are often in their distorted yang energy, as in do, go. They don't know how to slow down. They struggle with stillness. They struggle with spaciousness. They constantly trying to fill the space with something. overscheduling themselves, overcommitting, overgiving. Their health goes on the back burner. Their self-care is on the back burner. Again, pleasure, what is that? Sexual energy, never heard of her. Like all these things get thrown out the window. And then they're like, why do I feel like shit? So when you approach pleasure as something sacred, as literally your medicine, it can become part of your rituals. And this can all seem kind of simplistic, right? Like when for example, as I was sharing in the middle of this challenge, I started to feel that tension that I know myself. Like I said, when I get irritable and I feel like I'm spiraling about a certain thing in my mind, getting a little obsessive about it and getting angry about it or really frustrated, that is always a call for me to stop, take a step back, do something nice for myself, lean into sensuality, lean into pleasure. So for you, that could look like, these are some of the things that I like to do. Go outside and take a walk. I love an everything, the girls know, an everything shower. You get in there, you do it all. It's like you scrub, you exfoliate, you moisturize, you hydrate, you do your hair mask, you do your face mask, you do everything. Scrub your heels. Like you're literally head to toe. You get out of the shower, you look like a glazed donut. You feel alive. You feel refreshed. You feel like a goddess. You feel like Venus. You feel like Botticelli coming out of the show. I love to do beauty. Beauty rituals for me are part of my self-care. So it might be, and if you're a man listening to this, it could be even grooming things that make you feel more gorge. You know what I mean? Like whatever makes you feel handsome. Like maybe you shave your face completely, or maybe you do something with your hair. You get a little moisturizer, or you know, clip your hangnails or something, like trim your beard. It doesn't matter. Put on a little essential oil or your little cologne or something. Like, how can I use body oils. I use essential oils in my house. I buy myself fresh flowers. I'll go to bed earlier than normal. I've been changing out my wardrobe for like natural fabrics over the last like couple of years, trying to get rid of anything that's like acrylic and just have like cotton and linen and whatever, maybe like cashmere for sweaters or wool. And getting rid of all the polyester shit that makes me sweat and it just doesn't feel good. They actually say that linen and those types of fabrics have a really, really high vibration. I do believe that because roses are a high frequency too. They're like the highest frequency of flower. I think it's 528 hertz, which is like the frequency of love. That's the frequency of a rose flower. Isn't that amazing? So anything that's sensual and pleasurable, sometimes it's sitting outside and letting the sun shine on my face, or watering my plants, or reading a book. Listening to my playlist by myself and staring at the wall, light a candle. So whatever helps me drop into my body, honestly, and out of my head. And also, humor. Humor is so important, you guys. And again, I really feel this takes a back seat when people are going through it. It's almost like they start to like get off on their suffering. And the sadder they feel, it's like the more they're kind of energizing the pain. And then it's like this downward spiral. And it's really easy to get sucked into it. It's like quicksand. Tell me how I know. I feel things very deeply. I have a Scorpio moon. I feel things very deeply. And so I have to really check myself before I wreck myself. I love being a deep feeler. And I think that that's beautiful. But when it turns into like I said, obsessive thoughts, a lot of sadness, you're sleeping too much, like you don't want to do things. Movement is another way that I come into my body. I love low impact things like Pilates and yoga and walking. And I walk the treadmill like on an incline, but not super fast. I don't do anything to stress out my adrenals anymore. I'm also in my 40s, so I'm like over that phase. Gentle is better for me. I still like to move and do stuff. I lift weights, but I don't go crazy. You know what I mean? Because I just feel like I'm happier that way. And also it actually calms the nervous system. And again, it helps you get out of your head. So joy, humor, and pleasure can really be like a portal into deeper healing and transformation, particularly when your life is falling apart. In fact, I did a YouTube reading the other day, and the last card that came out talking about this was this card it was this goddess, the name on it was Baobo. But anyway, it was saying to find the humor when life throws you a curveball, when the plot twist happens and you're really disappointed, when something falls through, when things aren't happening the way that you want them to. there's always this like bigger cosmic joke, and we're so caught up in the details and in the minutia and in the microcosm. We're not like thinking about the macrocosm. And so I also find that watching things that make me laugh or reading things that make me laugh when I'm going through it is incredibly helpful to snap me out of the funk. I also love memes, and that's why I make them. And I use humor on my Instagram all the time to relay difficult concepts or shadow work stuff, because humor is a way for me that I've really been able to alchemize the pain. And again, we don't find like light and pleasure by forcing it. We find it by allowing it, through presence, through flow, through slowing down. And ultimately, to me, that's like where some of my deepest healing takes place. Again, the feminine energetic is intuitive and flowing. It's not pushing and forcing. And it doesn't matter what gender you are. Just understand that pleasure, like I said, it doesn't have to do with other people. This is it's not necessarily associated with sex, but I think just that's how we're brainwashed. And this is something where we can reclaim it and take it back for ourselves. You know what I mean? And particularly when it comes to your sexual energy, remember, that's your vitality, that's your life force, that's your creative energy. And and if you're wondering, like, how do I get in touch with my sexual energy without doing something sexual? Even just deep belly breathing, where you put your hands on your belly, for example, and you take a really deep breath in through the nose. You inhale, you allow your belly to rise. You keep your attention and your awareness in your hips and pelvis, and you just breathe like that. Deep inhale and deep exhale. And even if you do that for like 60 seconds, you're going to feel a shift. So there are meditations and ways that you can work with your sexual energy. In fact, if you want 5 that are amazing, you can go look at the book, The Magdalene Manuscript by Tom Kenyon. This is like my Bible. This is like my cult. Like the people that love this book, you are my people. But there are 5 meditations called The Alchemies of Horus in that book that and you can download them off of Tom Kenyon's website. It's just tomkenyon.com. And those meditations are incredible. I've been using them for over 12 years. Think about like raising your Kundalini energy and like raising that sexual energy up out of the hips and pelvis and bringing it, through your visualization up your spine, circulating that energy through your brain, hemispheres. Like, it's really powerful stuff. So this is another way that you can work with your sexual energy. But again, it doesn't even have to do with like self-pleasure or necessarily, like I said, sexual intensity, or that you have to get anywhere. Like for me, like I said, just being in my body through sensual rituals, some of the stuff that I shared with you, is enough for me to drop back into my body. So sometimes that's all you need. It doesn't have to you don't have to have an outcome or a goal sexually. In Tantra, sexual energy is sacred, and it's a way to raise your consciousness. So that's all. I just wanted to remind you guys that pleasure is sacred, that this is, for me, it really is like a prayer that brings me back to life. And if you feel like your plant that hasn't been watered in a month, then you probably need it too. And again, it's a great way to relax your nervous system. And I find that when I apply both that and the Buddhist philosophy, that the pain is not coming from the thing you think it is. It's coming from our mind and from our karma. Things are empty of a self-existent nature. The thing that's making you angry today is not necessarily making your mom or your sister or your partner angry. Like, these things are self-generated. So that is a relief in a sense, because it means the empowerment is that things can change. It's coming from you, not at you. And it should take some of the burden away to realize it's just your mind playing tricks on you. Like, you're not perceiving reality correctly. You don't have like a correct perception yet. That's okay. If we did, we'd be enlightened, you guys. We wouldn't be here in fucking earth school. So for me, when I focus on emptiness, that's the practice of emptiness, things being empty of a self-existent nature. When I use that and then I lean into pleasure, like this is just me taking the load off. I feel like I've exhaled. I feel like I just dropped my phone. Speaking of which, unload, you know what I mean? Get off of social media, turn off the internet. It just feels like you've unburdened yourself. I feel like I lost 100 pounds sometimes when I do these things. So you're allowed to feel good, even when things are shitty, even when you're feeling grief, rage, fatigue. Let pleasure be your offering. Let it be your prayer. And I love you guys very much. If you missed the meditation challenge, but you're intrigued, I have something else coming, even better, you guys. More support, community-driven, devotional, places to connect, to learn, where I can teach and share these things more intimately. Get on the Secret Waitlist. I've got a different page coming, but right now it's at the bottom of the Purification Meditation page. So the link is in the show notes for that. Of course, if you want a one-to-one clarity session, which is like an intuitive session / whatever you need is going to come through. I'm an intuitive. I love to use the tarot and the oracle, but sometimes we just talk, and you'll leave with resources that will keep the momentum going. So that could be meditations or other things that are going to help you specifically for what it is that you're dealing with. So the link to book a 60-minute clarity session is also in the show notes. And yeah, that's what we've got going on right now. So I love you guys, and I will see you on